and welcome to episode 64 of Book Writing Tips, Quick Tips for New and Seasoned Authors, and I am your host, Alba Arango. In today's episode, I want to go over ways you can add conflict to your story. Now, when you go pitch to an agent or a publisher, one of the questions they may very well ask is, what is the central conflict of your story? Because if it isn't evident in your quick elevator pitch, then they're going to want to know what kind of conflict your character is going to be going through in the book. So, with no further ado, let's learn some ways you can add conflict to your story. Alrighty then. Today's episode will be in two parts as always. In part one, I want to go over some ways you can add external conflict. And then in part two, we'll go over some ideas for internal conflict. So before we get to either of them, one of the big questions is why you should consider adding conflict to your story. So the two biggest reasons to really want to add conflict to your story are, one, it's really great for character development. I mean, the way your character reacts to situations of conflict, it is a great way to introduce aspects of your character that the reader may not otherwise see. And the second, probably best reason for adding conflict is it's a great way to drive the plot. I mean, and you really don't want like the sort of boring, not moving forward, nowhere to go, non-momentum story. You want to throw some obstacles at your poor protagonist so they have things to overcome. And of course, conflict is a great way to do that. So let's get down to it. Let's start with part one and some ideas for adding external conflict to your story. First of all, external conflict is the ones in which your main character is battling some kind of outside force. And there are many, many different kinds of external conflict. I'm just going to give you a few examples. So, there's like the obvious, fighting aliens or fighting Nazis. And of course, both of those are great because how does your character react to fighting Nazis? How does your character react to fighting aliens is also wonderful and a great way to drive the plot. But many of you are like, yeah, but I'm not exactly writing a war story. I'm writing like a rom-com or a mystery or romance, and I really don't want to have to battle aliens for this. No worries. There are lots of other ways to add external conflict. Probably the biggest one that most rom-coms do use is to have another character be the battling force, right? The one that your protagonist is up against. And maybe it's that, you've got competition for winning over the girl, or your main character has, competition for this promotion. Anything like that is a great way to, one, how does your character respond to having competition? And of course, a great way to add comedic, elements to your story as well. But also, what would they do for this promotion? What are they willing to do? And this is one of those things where character development and driving the plot kind of go hand in hand. But there are, again, lots of ways to add conflict. Maybe your conflict isn't with another person, but maybe with society in general. Like something about society is just wrong and your character wants to change it. And this could be anything from, say, having, a government that's tyranny. You're thinking like maybe 1984 or the Hunger Games, where you actually have a society that is the enemy. That's what your protagonist is battling. And that is, of course, great for character development and for driving the plot forward. But it can also even be like, well, I don't really want to write about the government, but what about if you want to write something about, say, racism? And racism is what you are trying to combat. So think of like the hate you give or something where your character is confronted with this and needs to figure out how they're going to react to this. And this could be a way to drive the plot. So again, all of these are great external conflicts that you can add. Maybe nature. Nature could be the conflict. There is a hurricane or there is an avalanche and your character is stuck and how they are going to survive the elements. And not that nature is bad, but it could be the antagonist in your story because your character needs to learn how to survive through it. And of course, that's a great way to drive the plot as well. How about technology? Technology is always one of those things. Maybe it's AI. AI is the enemy. And maybe that's the whole plot of your story, is that how are you going to combat AI? And of course, there's lots of, movies and books that are all about this, going all the way back to, you can look back to, stories written back in the early 1900s that had this kind of technology being evil thing. And that's also great for, character development and for driving your story. And of course, last but not least, maybe the most, I should say, kind of a pun intended here, timeless of all. And that is to have time be the antagonist in your story. And there's lots of different ways that you can make time be the external factor your character is fighting. And we refer to that kind of as the ticking bomb. And it could literally be a ticking bomb. It could be that your character is in a race to defuse this bomb, and we don't know where the bomb is, and that could be the whole point of the story. But it could be a lot of different reasons why time could be the antagonist. You could have literally your antagonist love interest is going to get married, and the date is, Saturday, and they have until Saturday to win over the girl. That's still a ticking bomb. There's still a time limit that your protagonist has to face in order to achieve what he wants. And you could even have it, and this is always a sad one, but it could be literally that end of life. Your character has leukemia and his life is ending. What is he going to do between now and when his life ends? And it could be a bucket list thing. It could be, telling everyone how they feel. There's all kinds of things that could be, the external force that your character has to deal with. And that's a way to show character development and a way to drive the plot. And all of these are great. And there are, of course, many, many more. You could Google them, I'm sure, and find many sources of external conflict. But having external conflict is important to make your character, to make your plot less two-dimensional, more three-dimensional, and to add depth to your story. Now, before we get to part 2 and internal development, which is, in my opinion, again, just my opinion, almost as important as external development, if not more important than external conflict. Let's get to our crazy law / writing prompt. And if you are new to the podcast, every week I give a crazy law. And this is a law that once upon a time in history was a real law, and maybe in some cases still is. And your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to write a short story based on that law. So here we go. And this, again, just a way to kind of flex your writing muscles and give you a break from your work in progress. Okay, this week's crazy law. In Billings, Montana, it is illegal to bring a rocket, yes, I said rocket, with you to city council meetings. Now, why they had to make that a law, or why you would want to bring a rocket to a city council meeting, I don't know. But you know what? It would be a fun story to write. So there you go. That's your challenge for this week. But now let's get to part 2 and internal conflict. Now, internal conflict is when your main character is struggling with something within themselves. So there are a lot of different kinds of internal conflict, but internal conflict is really crucial if you want to show character growth. So if you're writing YA, that is absolutely necessary. But if you're writing adult fiction, internal conflict is a great way to bring your character's flaws, their misgivings, their fears, to light, and to kind of let your readers in on who your character really is. So some ways to do that. Some sources of internal struggles. Maybe it's an expectation or duty versus desire. And so here's some examples of that. Your main character wants to have a relationship with this girl. He really wants to have a girlfriend. He really wants it, but there are secrets within him that he knows will prevent him from being a good partner, or prevent him or something that maybe he doesn't want his partner to know about, something that he's afraid if it comes to light will expose his, whatever skeletons he's got in the closet or whatever. And he is afraid of that. And so he's always holding back. And so those are internal struggles that he is going with that are, part of the plot, part of his character development that you can explore, and your reader will get to know more about him and how he struggles with this. And of course, you have to resolve this by the end of the book. It could also be something like this. Your detective, he's got his murder victim, and his murder victim is a neo-Nazi. and your detective is Jewish. Well, now he's got all of these internal, thoughts going on, like this person who is dead, who, job comes first. He's got to figure it out, knowing that this person that was killed is an enemy of him and all his people. And so he's got all this internal, how much is his heart into solving this case, knowing that whoever killed this neo-Nazi is going to hang for it. And, should they hang for it? These are all the internal struggles he's going with. And you could have all kinds of fun with situations like that. Now, perhaps it is a different kind of internal, struggle. What if it's society expectations versus your identity? What society expects from you versus who you really want to be? And there's all kinds of stories like this. I know I just finished watching Enola Holmes 3 because it just came out. And that's really, I'm not going to give anything away, just what was in the trailer. And that is her whole dilemma of, do I get married? No, I'm going to have to give up my name. I spent 6 years, getting my detectiveness, and I give all that up to become his wife, to become a lady. But it's him. I love him. And so there's that internal conflict, which is a great one, of course, always. I won't say anything more about it. But those kind of societal ideas, do you conform? Society expects you to be this. Do you conform to what society expects you to be? Well, what if you want to rise the corporate ladder? Do you, give up your morals? Do you give up your way of being? Do you become the team player, even though that's really not who you are? And these are the struggles that they go. What if your main character, wants to change the laws and decides to, run for city council? Well, he's got all of these backers who want to back him, but in order to get the money that they are offering to back him, is he going to have to compromise what he believes in to join that party, to become what the party wants him to be? There's so many ways that your character can have all this sort of internal conflict. What about fear? Fear versus making a life decision. Your character could be afraid of commitment. Your character could be afraid of, confrontation. Your character has all these internal fears, but when it comes down to it, what will he do? Will he do the right thing? Will he not do the right thing? And this could be something that is building throughout the entire book, where at the end, he's got to make that decision, and what does he do? And so this is all of these internal conflicts are great ways to show character development, to get your reader to really learn about your character, as well as ways to drive the plot or even subplots. So you could have multiple of these external and internal conflicts, and having a combination of both is really what is going to make for a really spectacular story. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider giving me a follow or a rating on whatever streaming choice it is. I do drop a new episode every week. So until next Wednesday, have a great week, stay safe, and I will see you all next week.